Here's Cliffe to give 5 bad arguments for the existence of God.
The reason that I believe that God exists is because of certain evidence. First piece of evidence, the order and the design of the cosmos points me to some type of intelligent mind, because my experience in life is, in order to bring about order, I got to work real hard.
You haven't been paying much attention to your experiences then. Order comes from disorder automatically all the time. If you put some water, sand, and rocks into a container and shake it up, you'll have a pretty chaotic distribution of materials. However, if you just wait a while, order will emerge. The densest particles will sink to the bottom and the least dense will float to the top, and the water will sit on top of the sediment. That's order that emerges from disorder with no intelligence doing any work. Also, a lot of the order in the universe was never brought about at all. The laws of physics, by definition, have never been defied at any point in time. That's order that has always existed. Nobody had to bring it about.
And when I get sick, I don't go running to a neophyte. When I get really sick, I go running to a highly, highly trained doctor who understands the order and design of the human body. My experience in life is order demands an intelligent mind behind it.
My experience is that order can sometimes emerge from disorder without an intelligent mind. Crystals forming from a solution is another example.
It doesn't come about by chance.
I agree that it doesn't come about by chance, but chance and intelligence are not the only 2 options. Mindless determinism can also bring order from disorder.
Second piece of evidence for me. Life, in my experience, always comes from life.
It's been my experience that life comes from chemicals because all life is made of chemicals. If you think life comes from God, I'm not sure what you think life is. Is God alive? Is he also made of chemicals? And if you really believed that God is a life form and that life always comes from life, then that would imply that you believe that God comes from some other life form, which I doubt you actually believe.
I don't care if it's plant life, animal life, human life. You never get life out of non-life. In other words, you never get the animate from the inanimate. Therefore, is it more reasonable for me to believe in the beginning God, or is it more reasonable for me to believe in the beginning matter and energy?
Given that life is made out of matter and energy, and God is not, I'd say the latter is more reasonable.
Because I only see life come from life, never life come from non-life, it's far more plausible, reasonable for me to believe in the beginning God.
That might be the case if God were made of self-replicating nucleotide chains. I doubt you believe that to be the case, though. I've only ever seen physical life forms come from other physical life forms. I've never seen it come from anything non-physical. In fact, I've never seen anything non-physical at all. So I don't see how a non-physical entity can be the most probable or reasonable explanation for anything.
Third point, the moral argument. I think you've been standing here while I've been articulating it. I am convinced that although they're not many, there are at least a few moral absolutes. Although there's a lot of ethical gray, probably more ethical gray than ethical black and white, there at times is ethical black and white.
There are things that my conscience can absolutely never tolerate, but that in no way means that morality is objective or absolute in any cosmic sense.
Crystal clear.
Moral absolute.
Moral absolute.
So those are the 3 reasons.
Those are 3.
Order.
Order design, coming from intelligent mind.
Where do you see design exactly? Design, by definition, comes from a conscious mind, so it's begging the question to use design as an argument for the existence of God. You can see order, you can see complexity, but order and complexity do not require design.
Life coming from life, not from non-life.
Please explain how God constitutes a form of life.
Moral absolutes. Fourth one, love. My experience of life is that love is crucial to my marriage, my family, my friendships. Love is a crucial motive in my life. If it's lacking, life turns very sterile, very empty.
What does that have to do with God? I know theists often say that God is love, but love is a neurological phenomenon. And I don't think theists mean to say that God is a neurological phenomenon.
The only way love can be real is if there is more to reality than matter and energy.
Well, of course there is. There's also space and time. However, I think Cliffe means that there's more to reality than the physical, and I have no idea what that would even mean. Why would love have to be something woo-woo in order to be real?
There's got to be some type of God who creates us with this innate ability to genuinely love.
Why? Why can't our physical brains be innately capable of genuine love?
If there is no God, the Duke University student was correct when he said, love is simply a biological drive to preserve the genetic pool.
Why would that make it not real or genuine?
And I said, sir, do you really think that's what motivates Mother Teresa to work among the dying in Calcutta, India?
Well, no, because I don't think she was motivated by love. She took millions of dollars in donations and could have built some really nice hospices with that money, but she didn't. The places she worked in were needlessly filthy and didn't even provide basic pain medication. Also, to say that love is a drive to preserve the gene pool is not the same as saying that the gene pool is at the forefront of the minds of everyone who is motivated by love. Evolution produced the capacity to love because it has the effect of preserving the species, but that doesn't mean that preserving the species is the only effect that love has on our behavior, or that this is what we're thinking about when we experience it.
He said, yes. I have a fundamental disagreement with that. My experience in life is, no. Mother Teresa was motivated by love for the dying in Calcutta, India. That's why she did what she did.
Which, even if true, doesn't contradict the idea that evolution produced the capacity for love because it has the effect of preserving the species.
Not motivated primarily by a drive to preserve the genetic pool.
Now he's shifted the goalpost to primarily motivated to preserve the genetic pool. Nobody says that love is a conscious drive to preserve the gene pool, primarily or otherwise. Why do we have cravings for food? Obviously because we would go extinct if we didn't. By pointing out that biological fact, I'm in no way saying that every time I get a hankering for some gummy worms, I'm thinking, I'd better get to the candy store for the good of the gene pool. The way instincts like love and hunger work is that they get us to behave in ways that are good for the gene pool without us having to consciously think about the good of the gene pool.
And I know there are computer programs that write very complicated, very ordered programs that do things. Extremely ordered. But I would not go back and say that the program that wrote it is a life, or capable of love, or capable of thought in the way I think of thought. I have seen order that is caused by seemingly disorder or random occurrences. I've seen order that doesn't necessarily come from a cogent willed source.
A common rebuttal to any example you give of order coming from an unconscious source is to say, well, where did that unconscious source come from? It must have been created by an intelligence. This is the case not just with computers, but with natural sources of order like crystals in a solution or ordered sedimentary layers. Those examples are the consequences of the laws of physics, and apologists would insist that the laws of physics must have come from an intelligent source. If it had been the case that there was once a time when the laws of physics were constantly broken, and then suddenly everything started to obey the laws of physics, it would make sense to ask what caused that change. However, by definition, there has never been a time when anything ever broke a single law of physics. So no such change ever took place. That's why the laws of physics don't need a cause at all, much less an intelligent one.
Okay, and my point would be, I would not be shocked if scientists created life. Because that's exactly what I believe. Intelligent mind creates life.
And I would not be shocked if chemicals created life on their own, because we consistently see that life is made out of chemicals. We don't see life being made out of, much less being made by, some spooky, woo-woo supernatural entity.
My point is, you've got to have the intelligent mind there. You don't just have life coming out of non-life by accident.
No, you have it coming out of chemicals in a way that's consistent with the laws of physics and the principles of chemistry. I don't think that's the same thing as an accident.
You don't think it's possible, even remotely possible, even infinitesimally remotely possible, that in some primordial pool, a lightning strike struck a complex of molecules that created an enzyme that then allowed us to evolve into this over billions of years?
Anything is possible.
Possible.
Correct. Anything is possible. But
more
statistically,
probable for the God?
Exactly. You see, for me as a thinking human being, the question is, what is most plausible in light of the evidence?
Well, given that the evidence consistently shows that life is a chemical process, and there is no evidence whatsoever for the supernatural, the most plausible explanation is that life is a product of chemistry.
Fourth point was love.
That I don't understand. And I'd really benefit if you could explain it to me.
Sure.
I don't understand what you mean by it, and I've never experienced what you're talking about. And I'm fairly happy with my life.
All right. What I'm talking about is, in the 60s, there was a riot at the Sorbonne, the French university in Paris. And a young man walked up to a bearded man and said, "Excuse me, sir, what are you rioting about?" The bearded man said, "I'm protesting this lousy world." The young man asked, "Do you believe in God?" The man said, "No, I'm an atheist." The young man asked, "Do you love anyone?" Bearded man lowered his head and said, "Yes, I love a woman by whom I've had a child, and she's dying of leukemia." Young man said, "Well, if she's dying of leukemia, why don't you ditch her and go out and get some other fox who turns you on a little more?" Bearded man hauled back and almost hit the young guy. The young guy said, "Excuse me, sir, you said there is no God." Well, if there is no God, there is no innate human ability to genuinely care for somebody else.
How does that follow? Maybe Cliffe is thinking that if love is the product of evolution, it has to always and only serve the purpose of survival and reproduction. That's not how evolution works. In order for an inclination to be preserved by natural selection, it doesn't have to grant an absolute advantage to the preservation of the gene pool. If it merely grants a net advantage, that's good enough. Some inclinations can even work against survival and reproduction sometimes and still be selected, as long as they are an advantage more often than a disadvantage, and love certainly fits that bill.
And if this woman is losing her ability to sexually excite you because her body's falling apart due to leukemia, why don't you go out and get some other fox who turns you on a little more? And then the young man pulled out a Gospel of John where we read that there is a God, and this God is love. And when he created you and me in his image, in his likeness, he placed within you and me the innate ability to love. So every atheist loves, every agnostic loves, every theist loves. Why? Because we're human beings, not machines. We're human beings created in the image and likeness of God.
Why can't evolution create an innate ability to love? To everyone who helps me out on Patreon, you're a big help. Thanks so much.